Hello, Aida. She is Aida Askry. Aida and her family grew up in Iran, and even as a child, one of her greatest passions was writing. Even then, she knew that she would be an author. She published her first book when she was 17, and today we are at her home to talk about her newest publication, The Book of Present.
Oh, I couldn't wait for this day. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. Interview. Let's find it together.
Please welcome Aida Askry.
How are you today?
It may sound weird.
You mentioned that. But you know, you say that, but I think that for us humans, we tend to live our lives from this layer, this very layer that you're talking about, the first part, the external piece that everyone experiences, but not really understanding the magnitude of how all of that is impacting the additional layers that you just talked about.
Yes.
A perfect example, as I was reading the book, I was thinking about growing up in rural Mississippi. We grew up really kind of eating off of the land, you know, raw vegetables, raw fruit. Our water came out of wells and out of springs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to the big city and everything is different. We're buying from grocery stores, from processed foods, and you know, the water coming out of the sink and places like that is different from what I grew up on. But because it was good in Mississippi, and then I see it and I think it's the same thing. It's water, you know, fruits, vegetables, whatever it is that we consume. It tastes good, but then I learned later in life, after it began to affect this external part, that I had been, you know, affecting all the parts of the body that you kind of speak of here. And so we're kind of a surface people. You get that?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, talk to me a little bit about how we have, because everything that we do, you know, what I ate was not just a choice of mine. It was through belief, life experience, what my family taught me. And so there are intellectual values to that. There are, you know, emotional values to those things, and let's talk a little bit about our genetic makeup and our what we call ancestral things that we just carry through life, belief systems, and all of these kinds of things. Because you kind of really dive deep into this this subject.
And I think it's important because you do deserve to look into the deepest part of yourself and finding out which ideas of life or what you're doing, it's coming from your conscious decision, and which one is something that you carry. And nothing to say that is wrong to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's beauty in cultural and traditions that they come, and a lot of times there are hidden wisdom in it.
Yeah.
But it also deserves to be dig a little bit deeper and find out what's going on there and what was the actual reason behind it, or else it gets lost in the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, the reason I wanted to open all this up is that up to a certain age, yes, we all are following everything else that is brought onto us out of love and the best of knowledge of our parents or whomever is our guardian that is taking care of us. But at some point, especially I feel this with the Book of Present, that with our technological revolution, you have access to tremendous amount of information outside, but now you have to choose which one resonates with you and which one doesn't. This goes back to your belief system, that goes to your religion in certain points, it goes to your spirituality, it comes to even scientific studies and what you really want to do with your life and what not. So that lifestyle becomes suddenly something you can choose how to have it and how you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of it. It comes from one of our conversations that we had before, is that in your family, for example, or my family, heart disease and diabetes both are huge. So growing up, I always thought, oh God, it's going to get me next.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true.
Right.
There are many studies, including one of my very favorite authors, Bruce Lipton, and he talks about cell biology and how actually you can override even your genes with your certain habits and finding out what is affecting it in a deeper layer. For example, if diabetes is something going on, changing the diet could completely change that experience, or finding out why the diet is the way it is, whether it's through emotional eatings and habits that you have, or if it's mental pattern, or it's just the way of being in the city that you live in. I have a great friend of mine, and they live in Idaho, and that's all they eat is the same food that was presented to them from their great grandmother. But things are changing. So if the things are changing, it's only fair to give yourself a chance to open up and see what are the possibilities and what you want to have from that experience, and what you want to keep and what you want to let go of.
Right.
And that balance between the two.
So we're just starting to
really understand the vast capacity of DNA, genetics, all these things. And the thing that you mentioned, and we were having this conversation about my own family, and I'm sure it happens in every family. A lot of the people in my family have diabetes, and people kept saying, just keep living, Monique, you too. Well, I don't buy that, simply because along with the the intelligence and then the emotional piece, which the book deals with, philosophy and science, two things are going on in order for that generational piece to be a part of my life. And I think we deal with the habits, how we eat and what we eat and when we respond to our need for food, but we don't deal with the other psychological ramifications of that. What's going on with that individual emotionally and physically for those habits to be developed. And that's something that you address here. So talk about that a little bit.
Of course, and that's interesting because, again, yes, we're using certain topics, and the science is just at that edge of learning more about this and understanding how it affects our entire being. Your mind can affect your body can affect your mind, and emotions can affect both in one way or another. But it's interesting because we do believe that DNA carries information and light, so that part of it, it's now no news for us. It's been there for a long time. But what we don't recognize and realize is that there is a good 60 to 75% of our DNA that we still don't understand how it works, and we call it junk.
Oh my God.
So that junk DNA is what I believe there's a lot more room to study and work about. Since we're still not 100% there, that doesn't mean we shouldn't pay attention to those areas.
Correct.
And I really believe understanding that you could bring the science part of equation and understanding the healthy way of taking care of your physical body and brain functionality, and bringing it together with the philosophy part of it, which is a way of living. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the philosophy has a certain belief system or not. It's just the way of your belief system are coming together as a way of living. So when you bring the two aspects together, that can completely rewrite the way your cells react to everything. And you hear every day, miracles do happen. Miracle is basically a science we still don't understand how to explain scientifically. And at the same time, it's the wisdom of those way of doing things that were done thousands and thousands of years by our ancestors. And we scratch our heads like, they didn't have all the science. But the reality is that they two go together.
And they're always together.
Absolutely.
They're never one without the other.
No, and if they are without each other, it's incomplete. It's like a bird that it cannot fly otherwise. There is one wing that is science, and it needs to be healthy. It needs to be to the maximum capacity as we have. And there is the philosophy, or technically what we're talking about is a realm of reality that you deal with that is not necessarily just about logic, but also your emotions and your connections with the higher power, if you believe in that, or simply how to have your relationship with the world. So when you have the two together, your bird, as an understanding of self, can fly really high, and you can see a little bit deeper into the subject and understanding who you are, what you want to do with this. And that changes the way we look at healing, that changes the way we look at science, that changes the way we also deal with teaching our future generations of how to be, because eventually this is going to affect our environment as well.
Absolutely.
They're all connected. So that's the way.
So if the way that my mother or my grandmother or my great-grandmother dealt with life emotionally, so say if when there was a problem or an emotional something, a trauma, then if they ate, and or if they were attracted to sweets or attracted to sugars or soul food or whatever it was, then that could trigger diabetes.
Absolutely.
And then if I'm a grandchild or a great-grandchild or a great-great-grandchild, and if I'm dealing with trauma or something emotional, then that could trigger me to have the same response. And so then that's how generational things get done, rather than, checking to see, did your mother have diabetes? Did your mother have this, all of these things, but not really exhausting that other side of how they were reacting to life.
Absolutely.
As a stimulus for how we arrive at the potential for generational things that we see, diseases or all of these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is very insightful. I want to mention the book again because the Book of Present, Self-Understanding Through Philosophy and Science is a really a brilliant read. I do want to express here that the book does not carry a religious bias. There's not racial bias. There's what else? Cultural. None of that. And how did you do that? And why was that important? Because I just jumped right into the material and went start to finish. I guess you can say a bookworm can do something like that. But it just so fascinated me. And I do know that had there been a religious connotation, or had there been something to give an indication that it was maybe for men, or something like that, could have caused me to not desire to move toward this incredible body of work. So tell me, why was that important?
Well, there are two main reasons. And number one is my direct experience with it. And I had a chance in young age to travel a lot and live in different parts of the world with different cultures. And that was always fascinating to me, that no matter where I was, and no matter what group of people from whatever race or whatever nationality or wherever, they still had certain things done the same way. The sky was blue everywhere. It's the same.
This is true.
So
clouds everywhere.
It didn't matter. There is something higher as beneath the surface that connects all of us together. And when you can speak from that direction and can speak from that level, we all understand each other. And aren't we all here just to understand each other and have a better life?
Well, that's what we're supposed to be here for, right?
Exactly. So that was the number one reason. And number two is that I do believe this is a good time, and it's important for us to have this type of understanding of ourselves, because that in a way writes our future and our future generations, and this is important for humanity. And not only for us, whether there's life outside of this planet or not, whether this is all we have, we're getting to the point of exhausting our natural resources. So there are some things that they need to come together to make us at least understand the purpose of the time we're here and how they're supposed to help us to take this to the next and the next generations. We've been here a couple of thousand years at least from the past, as far as we know about, and we probably will be here another few thousand years. So what can we do, and how can we bring this all together for hope for humanity and to improve, and in a way, if you want to call it, transcend our experience as a human being.
To navigate the human experience together. One of the things that I think surely this book will do is it will definitely help us to see how none of us are the same, but all different, but so many commonalities. This crosses. There are no boundaries here. Absolutely. It shows you that you get a total appreciation for the depth of who we are, and it definitely will cause you to recommit to every opportunity to appreciate yourself, but also to appreciate the person next to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because we're more than skin deep. There it is. I said it.
And we all have a human experience.
We do.
Okay? But that doesn't mean we're all going to have the same experience.
Absolutely.
So as long as we remember that each other's experience is something we can cherish. And the other reason I didn't want to mention any specific terms or specific modalities or practice in the book is because I want us to have that understanding altogether. Whether you're going through a path of any religion as a philosophy part of it or a spiritual practice, you have the same truth.
Absolutely.
It's the same manifestation. It's something that we all agree with.
Yeah.
If it's all truthful, then it would be the same.
Yeah.
And if you're having the scientific part of it, let's say we're talking and having an experience and talk completely with an atheist. But even then, with an atheist, you should be able to get to the same point. We still want to have a peaceful relation with the world around you, even if this is it and you came here out of nowhere and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you're here. You want to have a good experience.
Right.
So this is about no matter where you are, there's something there for you.
Right.
Now, what exactly that is, I don't
It's up to
know,
you.
but it's up to you, and that's the beauty of the book.
Yeah.
That it's not gonna take you to a way of believing something unless it's something that comes from your own personal experience.
It's a foundation that you can take and apply to whatever your lifestyle is.
Absolutely.
It doesn't
At any
matter.
age,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I had 15-year-old reading this book and have a different aspect of it. And I had much older and from different generations and different practices and different experiences of life, including soldiers after coming back from war. And everyone takes what they need from it at this
absolutely.
time. And I think that's an important aspect to have. It would be selfish of me trying to just push down one modality and say, this is the answer to all the questions mentally or physically.
Yeah.
But it's not that. So if I believe that's the only way, you shouldn't listen to me.
Right.
But if you are open to that, then the book will act like a mirror. It will probably show you some areas you don't want to really see, but it's important to see.
Yeah.
And there are some areas that you're not paying attention, but there is pure beauty there. So.
Speaking of the capacity of who your audience is, and saying that it's good for everyone, it is an exhaustive dialogue that is perpetual. So this conversation will continue.
Absolutely.
But the other thing here is that in this read, there are also developmental tools and exercises that you go through. So in addition to it being a phenomenal read, you get to work through the process of what you just read. Tell me why that was critical and important. And then it's not just a developmental tool for you here, it goes even further to a developmental online tool also. And this is deep diving into so many aspects of your life, 4 areas in particular that we just talked about. But the breakdown is information that you can use as you go on.
Absolutely.
So tell me, let's talk about the developmental tools that are inside of the book first.
Of course. The reason I wanted to have this book, number one, as brief as possible, because this could be a book of a couple of thousand pages very easily. And I'm going to be honest about that, because every part of it does deserve a lot more attention.
Yeah.
But there are so many wonderful books out there and so many wonderful, wonderful authors that they offer you as much information you could find in each and every chapter of it. But I want it to be brief, number one, so that you have a whole understanding of this. You can address it wherever it needs attention. You can find out and you can go on.
Right.
But what is important is that you need to read and then practice what you have just learned. And that comes from the way your mind functions. Your subconscious mind is a layer that you can read about it, consciously learn about these things, but how many of us have read many things daily that this is good for me, that's good for me, how many times do you do it? So doing it changes the way your lifestyle and your behavior is. And when you get a chance to change that behavior, that's where you start seeing results. Otherwise, you can know all about how good skin products could be for you, but if you're not applying it, the knowledge is halfway justified.
Right.
So that was the important part, that it needs to have practice. And we live in a digital world, and I still love books, as you can tell.
And I do too. I love it.
But there are so many of us that they're connecting with, and I think that's a good approach, because again, we're saving the environment. It's friendly, and at the same time, you can have everything in one little iPad and then go on with that tablet. But having the digital access changes the way you can carry on your experience.
Correct.
You may not have a chance to carry this book everywhere with you, and my hope is that you would, but if you don't, you want to have somewhere that you can go back and log in your personal experiences for 2 reasons.
Yeah.
Number one, have you ever had a diary when you were little?
How about a diary?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a diary. I have plenty of them. I still journal today.
Likewise.
All the time.
How is that your experience when you do have going back and reading?
Oh my God, it's like, every time I go back, I learn something more. I read something that I didn't remember that I wrote. It sparks the something new, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, observations of for your journal and your own path. I think it really kind of helps you to exhaust new futures, opportunities for new futures. But I mean, it's a good contemplative thing to do.
Absolutely.
Am I answering correctly?
Oh, you're always answering correctly.
But that's, I mean, I'm a word person. I'm a deep thought person.
Sure.
Can appreciate something like this.
Absolutely.
But you're right. So then having access to this tool here, after I read the chapter and I was so blown away by it, it was good that I turned the next page and there was a process for me to go through, because I'm able to collect that data from myself right there in the moment while it's happening.
And it brings you closer to yourself. Keep in mind, this is a book about you. This is about self-understanding. And you cannot understand something unless you're really intimate.
Yeah.
Really close to it. And when you have that intimate relationship with yourself, it also changes the way you interact with your past and future. When you look at it, when I go back to some of my writings from 5-10 years ago, I just laugh at it. Maybe at the time I was completely frustrated, but you give yourself a chance to accept that you do change, and changes do apply, and they come. And sometimes they're not good changes, but eventually you're able to forget something that is not part of your life anymore, or forgive what needs forgiveness, whether it's personal or something you had at the time going with someone else.
And you're not just processing that externally.
Absolutely.
With this book, we are talking about body, mind, consciousness, and heart all at the same time, and we're journaling about them together.
Yes.
And evaluating heart, evaluating consciousness, evaluating the body, and all of this at the same time, you begin to see the dynamics of something that you'd never even considered.
Absolutely, and you start seeing a value in it, and that's something I want to bring up, and I like everyone who's listening to this conversation today, and thank you for doing that, is that it's important that you understand your self-worth. Because unless you're understanding your worth, you're not gonna invest in it.
Correct.
But to understand that you are worth to invest in is the point of the book. So we're doing all kinds of investments. We buy even insurance for our cars, phones, houses. We can easily replace.
Absolutely.
But then it comes to ourselves, for some reason, our world is pushing me last.
Yeah.
And when you have families, everything else, and it's a beautiful thing to do and that's a natural response from any human being to take care of everyone else, and then especially women go through that. But to remember that you come to this picture very closely, and that changes your actions, and that changes your reactions of everyone around you, and very much so changes their outcome.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, that when you do put your information in the development logs, not only you have access to them to come back, no one else has access to it. It's completely secured by our website. I mean, unless you want to share that with me or anyone else that is working on the website as counselors or therapists. And otherwise, it's yours and only yours. And you can go back to them at any time you want to. Number two, you can use them as a source of value for medical history. And you can change and take it to your medical doctor. You can take it to your therapist. You can take it to your counselor, and try to evaluate where you were and who you want to be. Because we all have deep down desires and goals that we want to get to, and what are the things that you want to improve, and what are the things you want to keep as is.
Correct.
So that will be very valuable. Another value part of it is that, as I said, science is at that edge, especially when it comes to emotional intelligence and consciousness. Another great author that I really enjoy reading book, and all the wonderful research has done by Dean Radin and his books. So they use a lot of the information people donated in the past, either through physical practices or mental practice or emotional part. So when you have that kind of information available, and if you're willing to donate it to certain organizations, including hospitals, including research universities, and so many other organizations in the edge of understanding what we truly are and what the consciousness is doing to our reality. So that's a big part of it. Another great study was done not too long ago. I can't recall by who, but it was the fact, the emotional aspect in our cancer patients.
Wow.
And how much that can change, even if you're spending the last 6 weeks of your life.
Wow.
Whether you're going peacefully afterward or you're holding and kicking and screaming, you don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience you have changes, and we cannot control our environment at once, but at least we can see how we react to it, and that
Correct.
reaction changes the fabric of the reality we experience as a whole.
Wow.
So that's a big part of it that I do encourage you to experience the website and go to it. And in the future, we have a lot of other exciting plans coming up. It's an evolving plan in a way.
Absolutely.
And I'm so excited because it's never been done before. It's something you have never put together. And even when I talk to everyone else about the book, it's like, well, just hang on there and practice with it because it's going to grow with you. And if it stops growing, don't follow it anymore.
This is true. You just don't lock into anything, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's really amazing.
And the other thing that I'd like to share is that, in addition to the great read, the phenomenal read that this book is, the tools that are here in the book, the tools that are online, Aida is available and she sees clients all the time. And so if you'd like to have a more personable dialogue or a conversation or a session with Aida, she's open and available
All
for
the time.
that.
Absolutely.
She is a PhD. But I think that, as I've gotten to know Aida myself, I just think that, there's so much more to the way that you process the people that you engage with. I think that, like you said, there's intelligence, and we know that degrees and all these things can give us that, but there's also these innate abilities that are in us that we don't always exhaust to the fullest. And so, Aida, look, we're going to cut this part.
It's fine. I don't really mind.
Aida, why don't you tell our audience where they can get the book and how what the website is and where they can learn more about where they can have a one-on-one engagement with you.
Of course. And thank you so much again for giving me the chance and the pleasure, and thank you so much for your time. You can find the book on our official website, www.bookofpresent.com, and that's also where you can find the introduction. Is available there. The whole book is actually online too, so if you don't prefer to have the hard copy, you can just follow the book online once you log in and get access to everything. But yes, that's where you can find me, and I do like to have that intimate relationship with my audience. It's because everyone is different and we all are unique. And I do celebrate that uniqueness and having that diversity, because that changes the whole dynamic of our world. And I was talking to another audience the other day, and she's like, but no one understands me in my workplace. It's like, well, that's your gift. So we all are gifted with certain things, and we have different purposes in our life, just like your whole body does. If your eye muscles try to identify itself by this ability of your fingers or your triceps and biceps, it will be fully confused, and it will be living a very confused life, and most likely sad and depressed. But understanding what muscle are you in the body of the universe.
5 fingers, everybody has a part.
There you go. And then how can you change that? How can you improve that? And how can you evolve that to its maximum potential? It's nothing outside of you we're trying to reach. And it's nothing magical is coming out of this. So someone will ask me that, so what am I going to gain at the end of reading this book? I have no idea. And I don't want to know. I want you to surprise me.
Individual
Exactly. And tell me what you came up with. And tell me what was the part that was for you. And this is the first book of the 3, like I said before. And goes on in the second and the third book. I have no idea what the third book is completely all about yet, because it's growing with us as we go on. But yes, you can find me online and we can have conversations, and I'll be glad to hear your story. I'll be glad to find out what is it that you're trying to improve in your life, or where is that potential or desire that you're trying to find, and how you want to direct it in life, and we'll take it together. And I think that's all that we can do with this for now. And that's a wonderful, wonderful experience, just to get to know each other and work with it. But that's where you can find me, and that's where the book is. for now, and we will have a lot of new exciting news coming up.
I'm telling you, this is it really did something for me. I'm so happy that you have come into my life, and I'm really excited that you followed, this desire to see the manifestation of this come to life. I'm inspired by that. And I do believe that this book will be transformative, for you. And I do strongly encourage that you pick up a copy, go online, go through the process, get in touch with Aida. I would love for Aida to be able to exhaust each one of these 4 chapters deeply, maybe in some Facebook Live events, maybe some workshops, whatever. Just watch for more, because I think it's a great time for us to know more about the depth and the capacity of who we are. And how that causes us to align our lives with others.
Absolutely.
So that we can do things as the orchestra, the symphony.
Absolutely.
That we are. Each playing a different instrument, but all making music.
Beautiful music together.
And beautiful
so
music
true.
together.
And that's another thing, is that I may not know each and every one in personal level, but I do have hope in humanity, and I do have hope in our future. And it's coming together. And when you look at the bigger picture, everybody's worth it. You all have something new,
Great
unique,
value.
And great values.
And great
So
value.
let's not talk about things that you think about yourself as not now, to the best of its potential.
Yeah.
Focus on the things that they are going on, and remember that we all have those beautiful, beautiful values that we can share with others. And as long as we all are aware of that and we're practicing our best self, that's all that needs to happen. Every tree that you see in our neighborhood is being a tree for the sake of being a tree.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter what the tree next to it looks like.
Exactly. And they all go through their potentials naturally.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do here.
Yeah.
And as long as you remember that, there is no need to be worried and finding that, I'm going to wait for all the stars aligned to start something. The time is now.
Yeah.
And all that you do counts for this present moment.
Absolutely.
And from this present moment, you can transform everything in the past and everything in the future.
Yes.
So as long as we remember that, I think we all could have a chance to explore this and open up this gift that I have no idea what it is. So I'm as excited as you are. I don't know the end of this story either.
And I love that. Everything is perpetual. You know what I'm saying? From
Absolutely.
generation to generation and generation and generation on.
Yes.
The Book of Present. Aida Askry.
Thank you.
You want to pick it up?
Thank you so much
for
Of course.
sharing
Thank
in
you.
this beautiful time together, and I look forward to where the future will take us.
Likewise. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
thank you all so much. We'll see you
She has
soon.
an amazing husband, Benjamin. Hopefully one day we'll get an opportunity to get him on set.
Thank you. That'll be good.
They're a dynamic team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.